Hello, everyone, and welcome to Electric Bike Report. My name's John.
And my name's Griffin.
In this week, we're going to be talking about some updates to the import and tariff situation.
I bet you never thought you'd hear the word tariff so much in your life.
I know I didn't. But anyway, we're also going to be talking about some new e-bikes from Heybike and Raleigh.
Some really interesting stuff going on with those too.
And then we're going to have a big Q&A discussion with a bunch of topics, but we're going to have a much needed discussion about the topic of trail etiquette.
So let's get into it on this episode of the Weekly Recharge.
All right, jumping straight into the news this week, we're going to talk about some adjustments to the tariff rates that the Trump administration made, and they affect many e-bike and bike-related or producing countries. So the new plan here applies a 10% base flat tariff to countries that the U.S. has a trade surplus with, and then there's going to be a 15% minimum applied to those with whom we have a trade deficit with. And the result of that basically is that some tariffs went up, others went down. We'll give you a couple examples here. Starting off with Taiwan. So back in April, the original tariff rate then was 32% on goods imported from that country, but then that was reduced to 10% with the administration's reciprocal tariff rate, and then now that has gone back up to 20, so kind of still in the middle between those. And then looking at Cambodia, so that one also fluctuated a lot. They started off at 49% in April, that was reduced to 36%, and then now that's gone down a little bit further to 19%. And there's a few other countries that have that same 19% rate. That's Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. But then just kind of rounding things out with a lot of the bike-related countries, we've got Japan at 15%, the UK at 10%, and Vietnam at 20%. Now, it is worth pointing out that the legality of all of this is still kind of being debated between the administration and the Court of International Trade. There are some arguments going on basically in defense of the Trump administration right now, but it could be months before any final decision is made, and even then it could kind of make its way to the Supreme Court. But for the time being, this is just a really difficult environment for e-bike brands and retailers because the environment is constantly shifting and there's no real way to plan for what the next situation will be tomorrow or the day after. And
absolutely.
It's just very difficult to...
Sadly, the headache continues of just, the difficulties of not being able to plan for the future. I mean, it looked like, get out of China, brands got out of China, but then other countries are being hit with these tariffs as well. And so it's just constantly just this ever-changing, evolving, shifting things that brands have to deal with. And of course, there's going to be some whiplash effects that impact consumers as well, especially on the price front. So again, we're going to cross our fingers that everything gets sorted out soon and on a more permanent basis so that, the bike industry can just get back to being a well-rolling machine.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
But in other news, Heybike released two new X-Series folding e-bikes. So the bikes are new versions of the Mars and Ranger, now both on their 3.0 versions, and both have redesigned frames, including full suspensions, powerful motors, 20 by 4 inch fat tires, and color displays with security features and Bluetooth connectivity with the Heybike app. So let's go.
Stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of new things going on. So let's go one by one, starting with the Mars 3.0. So a 750 watt motor with a 1400 watt peak and 95 newton meters of torque. It now includes a torque sensor as well. It has a 624 watt hour frame integrated battery and an advertised range of 65 miles. Currently in testing on that one, so stay tuned. We'll update that when we have the full testing done. Also has an 8-speed drivetrain, hydraulic disc brakes with 2mm rotors. Is that the thickness, I'm assuming?
Thickness,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then the cargo rack with 100-pound weight capacity. So a major overhaul there for the Mars, and very rare to see these full suspension folding bikes. It's just not a combo you see a whole lot of.
Totally.
And then over with the Ranger 3.0 Pro, that one has a 750 watt motor, 1200 watt peak with 80 newton meters of torque, also a torque sensor, 720 watt hour battery with 90 miles of range, 8-speed drivetrain, hydraulic disc brakes with 2.3mm rotors, so a little thicker on that one, and then the cargo rack with 100 pounds of capacity. It's also worth pointing out they have a really cool limited edition colorway on that one. That's limited to only 200 miles.
That's
so very Grand Theft Auto vibe type thing, like little Miami Vice looking thing.
Yeah.
But pretty cool there. So again, we have both of these in for testing right now, and we're getting through them. But make sure you stay tuned and see those full reviews when they drop.
Hit that subscribe button. That's right. But then moving on back to the sort of political and import front.
And do we have to?
I know. Tell me about it. So President Trump recently signed an executive order that is intended to eliminate the $800 threshold for de minimis exemptions. So we've kind of covered this before. it's an evolving situation, kind of like the tariff thing, but this de minimis exemption basically means that goods that are valued at or below $800 are exempt from duties, taxes, and a lot of safety regulations. So in regards to e-bikes and a lot of other products, but specifically here, we've had a lot of domestic brands voice their opinion and perspective that this allows foreign companies to basically undercut them because they don't have to worry about factoring those costs in. It can also kind of, on the consumer side, result in products that are less safe. So the Trump administration earlier this year previously tried to eliminate this exemption, but then kind of backpedaled right away just because there weren't the systems and infrastructure in place to suddenly collect taxes and fees on all of these products coming in. I mean, we're looking at things on Amazon, Temu, just a whole
flood of different products that are, unrelated to bikes, which really impacts how this whole system runs.
Exactly, yeah. As far as this goes, this is sort of a temporary measure. The executive order goes into effect on August 29th, but then Congress could, after that, pass it into permanent law. But there's also kind of like another angle that's in the works on this that's kind of built into the budget reconciliation bill. And as long as that goes through, that would make the change effective permanently in 2027. So got a quote here from Jen Dice, who is the president and CEO for People for Bikes. She said, People for Bikes has advocated for the reform of the de minimis threshold since 2018. This action, while temporary in nature as an executive order, is a strong signal to U.S. manufacturers, assemblers, and retailers that their concerns are being heard. It's a meaningful win for fair trade and consumer safety. We can't really argue that at all. We're definitely in favor of this. Want to see e-bikes being safe for consumers, while also hopefully being affordable. But
yeah, absolutely.
Cheap.
With the bike-focused lens, it seems like a major win here. Again, it's a complicated thing because it's not just about bikes. There's going to be a whole lot of other different voices and opinions. I'm sure it's going to be an ever-evolving story, but we'll see where the dust settles, in the end. And then moving back off of the news of
e-bikes
into the new e-bike launches. So Raleigh has actually launched 2 new models. Well, one entirely new and one updated models. And those will be coming to Raleigh fans over in the UK. So the all-new one is the Hockley, which is a lightweight commuter with a Bosch Performance Line SX mid-drive. So this has 55 newton meters of torque. It's available in either a high step or mid step with multiple frame sizes to pick from. It weighs 18 kilograms or 40 pounds. A 400 watt-hour battery with an advertised range of up to 100 kilometers or 62 miles. And it has this ICHU head shock with 20 to 25 millimeters of travel, so a little bit of squish in there, always nice. And then has integrated lights, fenders, and a cargo rack. Now, the Motus is an already existing model, but it got a little bit of a refresh. It's a little bit more robust and futuristic low-step commuter, and now has more battery life as well. So that one has a Bosch Performance Line mid-drive with 75 newton meters of torque, 500 watt-hour battery with the same range, 100 kilometers or 62 miles, a Suntour NEX suspension fork with 50 millimeters of travel, a high-capacity MIK-compatible rack, integrated lights, fenders, and chain guard, and either a 7-speed Shimano Nexus gear hub or a 9-speed Q's derailleur. So for fans of the show over in the UK, first of all, hello. We don't often single you out enough, but if you do get your hands on some of these Raleigh bikes, let us know, and we'll cross our fingers that hopefully we get to test them out sometime soon as well.
Absolutely, but that does it for this week's news. All right, this is the segment where we talk about and highlight some of the gear that we've been sent to test out. So this week we're going to be taking a look at a vehicle rack from Saris. Griffin, you are the vehicle rack guy, so...
That's me. It's my calling. It's what I do. Yep. So this one's actually kind of cool because I have tested out a lot of different hitch racks, and a lot of them are actually pretty heavy, like 40 to 70 pound ballpark is pretty normal. Yeah. This one's actually a lighter weight aluminum, only 25 pounds it claims, so that's actually pretty cool in my book.
It's manageable for a lot of people.
Yeah, a little bit different. This one's also compatible with either 1.25 inch or 2 inch receivers. A lot of them that we get are only 2 inch for e-bikes. Now, granted, this is going to be a little bit like lighter weight e-bikes. It's got a weight limit of 60 pounds per bike, so 120 pounds total, but that will still accommodate a bunch of different EMTBs, road and gravel, and some commuters too. If you can drop the battery out, it usually makes weight under that 60 pound limit.
Sure.
So a couple other things to note on it. It can accommodate wheelbases up to 50 inches in length, tire sizes between 24 and 29 inches of diameter or 3 inches wide. It does have some security built in with locking wheel hooks, which is always nice. It's got some ratcheting wheel straps for tighter fastening. It's also got a fast fit rotating wheel tray, so you can just really quickly get the bike fitted in the rack nicely. Mm-hmm. It's also got anti-wobble locking thread hitch pins, so That's usually the number one thing people ask me about when it comes to hitch racks. Does it wobble? Does it move? So I actually do like those threaded hitch pins. A little bit tighter, a little bit more secure on the back of the vehicle there. So again, we just got this one in. This is a little bit of a preview, but we'll be having a full review down the road. So make sure you're subscribed to check that out. You can check that out either in the written form on the website or, of course, by hitting that notification bell on YouTube to make sure you see it when it goes live. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the testing we got going on and some of the reviews that went live. So we actually just got in the Amflow PL carbons. We already did the review for the Pro model. This is the more affordable option between the two, with a little bit affordable with the air quotes. I know everything, all things relative, folks. But this is, I believe, $7,500. So a little bit, not top tier components, but a little bit more approachable. You still get the same super lightweight frame, really awesome motor, that Aventon motor, and really good and efficient battery life as well. So a lot to look forward to on that. I'm very curious how it rides after having done the Pro model, but we're going to be testing that one out and getting the review up here pretty soon.
So on that note, I'll echo what Griffin said just a couple minutes ago about make sure you're subscribed. But in the meantime, if you are looking for things that are currently published, we had a few reviews go live, starting off with the XP Trike 2, the long-awaited update to Electric's Trike model. So we talked about that on the show here a couple weeks ago when it was first released, but we did our full in-depth review, all of our testing, and just really, I gotta say, walking away from that thing, rarely have I been impressed with a trike, but that thing, especially for its price point, is incredible. It looks better, it rides better, it is comfortable, it has a ton of new features. It's just great all around. So yeah,
number one selling trike feels better. I mean, that's pretty good takeaway.
Exactly,
but sure. Check out John's full review for all the details on that. And I also had one go live with the Ride One Up Trail Rush. So this was another shocking one we covered a couple of weeks back in the news. This is maybe the best quality affordable EMTB to hit the market in a very, very, very long time. But it's only $2,100, but you get a quality XC riding experience. And it doesn't really cut any corners either. You get a good drivetrain, the Shimano Dior, you get a RockShox Judy air fork, you get a really good quality motor with the Broza TF Sprinter. It just, again, didn't really cut any corners, has really good spec everywhere you look, and it's like $500, $600, $700, $800 cheaper than the other things that we used to consider the affordable standard for EMTB. So really cool review. Make sure to check it out for all the details if you're looking to get a new XC riding mountain bike. But that's going to do it for the peek behind the curtain and the reviews we got in the works.
Each and every week, we like to dedicate a segment of the show to talk about a cool place that is friendly to e-bikes, whether that's a city or a specific trail system. So this week, Griffin, have you ever been to Kansas?
I actually have been to Kansas.
You have been to Kansas.
Curveball, you thought I was going to say no.
I did think you were going to say no. Yeah.
So I did have a theme going for a while where I was trying to explore states via like the show basically and learn a little bit more about places I haven't been. My brother did live in Wichita, so I visited him for a week way back in the day. So I've been there. But
cool.
The reason I'm deviating from my norm is because Rails to Trails Conservancy, a website that we use a lot to actually put this segment of the show together.
Shout out. Yep.
They are doing their annual Hall of Fame nominee selection, and they are down to 3 candidates right now. So I thought I'd go ahead and highlight one of them. Now, the voting should be closed by the time this airs, so maybe they'll have the winner already announced. But again, I took a look at the final 3, and I passed over the Murdoch Canal Trail in Utah. I'm a proud Utah, and I usually take the bait. There was also one in Florida as well, but this one caught my eye. It's the Flint Hills Trail State Park in Kansas, and it seems actually really cool. It had some cool history, and it's actually a trail that's 120-ish miles long, but it's technically a state park. So
that's wild.
Yeah, kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of dive in and explore everything there is to know about it. So it is 118 miles total, and most of it is crushed limestone for about 96 miles worth. It spans 5 different counties in Kansas, including Franklin, Leon, Miami, Morris, and Osage. Now, some of the history with it. So it's a rail line section that makes up, again, the Flint Hills Trail was completed in 1886. It was part of a full line running from Kansas City, Missouri, all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. And it was ran by the Missouri Pacific Railroad, or also known as MOPAC. So the railway, of course, had its ups and downs, but it lasted a really long time. MOPAC was eventually acquired by Union Pacific in 1982, and when it started quitting much of the line across Kansas, and the section that now comprises the trail was fully abandoned by the mid-90s. Now, the Kansas Rail Trails Conservancy did acquire it, this particular corridor, in 1995, and then construction by an all-volunteer crew began in 2001. And then by 2018, it was actually officially established as the Flint Hills Trail State Park by the state legislature. So again, just pretty cool that it's technically a state park, but it is a free and accessible one. You don't have to pay the state park pass or anything to hop on it.
That's cool. I wonder if there's any record as far as like the narrowest state park or something like that. I don't know.
Probably qualifies for some like cool criteria, I'm sure.
Interesting.
So in terms of some of the things you'll see in the nature out there, so this trail traces a course through the Flint Hills, which is actually one of the last remaining tall grass prairie ecosystems in the world. So that's pretty cool. There's also, so the eastern stretches follow the Marais de Cagny, guys, you know this by now. We're bad.
Cygnus? Yeah.
Cygne. Someone let us know how you pronounce that.
Please do.
But you can also see, so you can follow like the river there. You can also see some wooded bluffs, riparian zones, and like some rolling farmland and prairie expanses here. I mean, the photos just look really awesome, like they. Like you can see. So the animal life will include some wild turkeys, some bobwhite quail, prairie chickens, white-tailed deer, and bobcats. Bobcats was my elementary school mascot, John. Would you like me to sing our fight song?
Please do.
I'm not gonna. So in terms of some of the local culture and stops along the way, in Ottawa, they have downtown cafes and restaurants, and of course an old depot museum, which features railroad and local history exhibits, so pretty cool there. Over in Osawatomie, again, hopefully I'm saying that right, it has the John Brown History Museum and the, again, Marais de Cagny Riverfront Park, which is said to have a lot of pre-Civil War history. I should have done better with the prep on this. Sorry, guys. Also, there is the Santa Fe Trail History and Treaty Oak sites at the Alagawaho Heritage Memorial Park, honoring former Kaw tribal land.
You're just batting 1,000 with these complicated words.
Glutton for punishment. I saw this, I was like, whatever, I'm just going to lean into it. I could leave it out, but I want people to know these things sound and look cool from what I can find online, so I'm going to just, trudge through it my best. So in terms of things to know, especially for the e-bike crowd and some seasonal notes, so it is Class 1 and 2 e-bikes are fair game. Class 3 may have some restrictions. Just make sure to take a look at posted trail signage. It's open year round, but restrooms and water fountains are seasonal and turned off in the cold months. And then the prairie grasses are best in the late spring, if that's what you're into, late spring to midsummer. But of course, there is some really vibrant fall colors to explore as well across the woodlands. So again, it looks like a really cool and promising trail. I really liked some of the photos highlighted here for the like Hall of Fame nomination that Trails Conservancy is doing. So as always, if you've been here, let us know what you think about it and maybe share some insights.
That's right. I'm glad that you picked this one actually this week, because I voted for it just based on like a photo. I was like, that one looks nice. It has like a nice railroad bridge and some grass, and it was cool. It just looked more appealing to me. But yeah, looking closer at these photos, it looks really majestic. Nice variety of environments to ride through, and some fun names to practice along the way. But
practice or trip over in my case. But that'll do it for this week's trail highlight. All right, and now for our questions and comment sections from you, our audience members. Again, thank you so much for writing in. We do go through as many of these as we possibly can, but some are worth highlighting and bringing out on the show. So let's get into it today, John.
Yeah.
So our first question comes from Mastador from last week's episode of the show on YouTube, who says, "Hi, I have both the Velotric Breeze 1 and the Aventon Bound SR. Could you please ask Aventon to add some more of Velotric features to its next firmware update? I would like to have a headlight on symbol, click sounds when blinkers are in use, stealth mode so I can turn off the brake light use, but most importantly, throttle sensitivity control." Those features would be great.
I definitely agree. Yeah, we'll kind of break them down here, but I did want to say, first of all, kudos for your choice in bikes. Those are both great models. So yeah, running through those, the headlight on symbol. So you might be surprised to know that actually you should have that. I looked at both our Abound SR and also our level 3, just that was like the two different types of Aventon's displays, and both of them did have the headlight on symbol. I thought so, but I just wanted to double check that. So yeah, you should have that on your bike. Be sure to double check that. As far as the click sounds and turn signals, that's actually something I'm super stoked about that Velotric started doing. So I definitely agree. And that should be possible with the fact that the Abound SR has the speaker that emits the alarm, if you trip the motion detection system. So yeah, fingers crossed that Aventon does go that route. That would be very cool.
I'm also in that camp, because if it doesn't have click symbols, I forget and leave it on all of the time. And then I'm like 30 seconds later, I'm like, oh, look, that was on the whole time. Sorry.
If I remember right, Aventon does have like a timer at least.
Yeah, I think they do. So not everyone does on the turn signals, but
for sure. They do. Yeah. But then moving on to the stealth mode, that one is something that I would hazard a guess to say that like Aventon may not put the time into developing that, just because it doesn't seem like something that a lot of riders, specifically with the Abound SR are really going to need per se, but I could be wrong. So, we'll see how that rolls out in the future. But then throttle sensitivity control, that is definitely another great one. I think that would be fantastic. In our testing, we really liked that throttle. It kind of, was gradual to start and then picked up fairly quickly. So it has plenty of power to move extra weight, but it's not scary when you use it. But of course, everybody's preferences are different. And when it comes to actually implementing that may be something that could be relatively easy on their end, just because they already have the ride tune feature in the app. So it allows you to adjust the pedal assist system. So in theory, that should be possible as well. So yeah, anybody at Aventon listening, there's definitely some interest out there. And,
kind of actually, we talked about it last week when Aventon did announce a bunch of different updates that they were doing, that they were pushing through their app. Does kind of get me wondering though, what are some other features that maybe some other brands are doing that are theoretically possible via an over-the-air update? Weigh in, let us know down in the comments below, what features you want to see more widespread across bikes that should be updatable.
Definitely, yes, please do that. But moving on to our next question, this comes to us from @Steady747 from last week's episode of the show. I got run off the trail by a three-wheeler yesterday. Man. They don't belong on trails, too big, and the type of rider who rides a three-wheeler is either too old or not experienced enough. They are a danger to other riders.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
So a couple of things here. If we're talking multi-use paths and trails, look, we do believe that those are for everybody, regardless of age. Or 2 wheels or 3 wheels, things like that. I would say fully capability. Again, you shouldn't be out there and going crazy and crashing into people, stuff like that. But by all means, if you're able to ride fairly safely, you should be able to. But they do need to respect the rules of the road, just like anyone else. I believe it or not, actually, my first crash experience when I started working here was because I was going across a bridge and someone was on a recumbent trike going straight down the middle of the bridge. Did not seem particularly.
Oh no.
Wanting to go to one side or the other, and even though I was coming head on, and he didn't brake at all, so I ended up actually kind of crashing into the side of the bridge because he didn't want to move. So I kind of get and understand the sentiment, but I'm not ready to ban anyone on 3 wheels because of that one person. So again, it just etiquette, people. So when it comes down to it, got us thinking a little bit, some of the trail etiquette rules that should be observed. And so we put those in a list and kind of want to break it down here. So a lot of it can be summarized by don't be a jerk.
Yeah, that one should be pretty easy in theory.
It's pretty simple and straightforward. But some more specifics. Again, follow speed limits that are posted, especially when the trail is busy. Just there's trails, it's public fund money and all that stuff like that. But let's just make sure that we're being safe and following the posted speed limits. No bad apples, spoiling it for everyone there. Yep. Slow down when you're approaching or overtaking other trail users. Don't so close right next to them or something like that. Just safely, navigate and go around them. Be sure to yield right of way, especially if you're coming up on pedestrians, but a cyclist is coming the other way. Let that cyclist go first before you try to go around the pedestrians. That's something we see a lot of people try to sneak in right before. It's just not particularly safe.
It's kind of rude, frankly.
Kind of rude. A lot of people end up jumping the pedestrians, especially. They're they jump out of the way when you're kind of cutting them off. So
yep.
Never great. Always announce people when you are going to overtake them as well. Yell out on your left or ring the bell, something like that. Give other trail users space. Do not get right up on them before alerting them to go around. So not only signal them, but signal them with plenty of time, and make sure that they feel safe. Give other don't litter. Underrated one here.
Definitely.
We see that from time to time. So don't litter. Wear a helmet. Always be safe out there. And, if you have a pet, some people ride with their pet, make sure they're leashed and stuff like that. I'm a pet owner, and I'm the type of person where it's I have faith that my dogs aren't going to do anything, but again, other people don't know that, and they might, panic or something like that, and you just never do know, like John said. So, and then feel free to remind others about etiquette in a nice and not, pushy or whatever way. Some people might not know some of the rules, things like that. So again, just, share positive trail etiquette, and let's all enjoy and have a safe time out there.
I wanted to add one thing to when you mentioned about, using your bell. A lot of bikes these days come with electronic horns. Now, I don't know if this is a universal thing, but I've kind of found that if I use that, pedestrians really don't seem to like it. That's a very aggressive, abrasive sound. So, if your bike has that, maybe consider adding a bell. It seems to be received maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. Usually the bell's just kind of we just get the usual wave. So
yeah,
it might be something to think about. All right, so next question comes to us from Oliver O, J1R, Velotric, Fold 1 Plus review on YouTube, who says, I am planning on riding an e-bike to Glacier Point, Yellowstone National Park when it opens to bike only this coming spring.
Actually.
Or Yosemite, thank you. This coming spring. Will this bike be okay for that climb? It's a 16-mile one-way with elevation gain of 3,200 feet. I am 110 pounds. Thank you. All right.
Great question. Really actually enjoyed diving into this. So I think I'm going to look at this from a couple different angles. Let's talk about grade or gradient to start. So if you are familiar with the channel and you've seen our introductory video to our new hill test location, which is called the Devil's Backbone, kind of broke this down in there, but I'm going to run through kind of the same thing here. So every hill that you kind of come across is going to have a grade. You know, a lot of times there's like a yellow sign with like a slope and a percent on it. So the way that that is calculated is it's rise over run. So that's your vertical elevation gain divided by the horizontal length distance of the hill, and then that multiplied by 100.
You mean that stuff I learned in junior high is actually coming
A little bit of math
to my real life?
is, yes, practical and good to know. Absolutely. We're not going to get into the Pythagorean theorem here, though, but
Thank goodness.
we'll spare you that. But so when you're doing this, when you're looking at this calculation, it is important to make sure that both measurements, the elevation and distance, are in the same unit. So just kind of looking at your description here of the path that the road that you're going to be climbing, I took that 3,200 feet and then divided that by 84,480 feet, which is 16 miles converted to feet, and then multiplied that by 100 to get a very, very rough estimate of 4%. That does not factor in any ups and downs, just kind of the overall. So I found a pretty cool resource here called PJam Cycling, which touts itself as, quote, the leading global resource for cycling climbing around the world. And they had actually a pretty good article on this road. So again, my rough estimate there with the grade calculation was 4%. And based on what this website said, the actual is about 4.7%. But there are a couple of steeper sections of the road there. So there's the steepest quarter mile part is 8.5%. The steepest single mile is 6.2, but then there's like little bits and pieces that kind of exceed 10%, but that is less than 1% of the overall climb. So when we are looking at the performance of the Velotric Fold 1 Plus, looking at our hill test there, the Devil's Backbone again, so that hill has an 8% average grade, and the bike did a really good job there. But our climb is relatively short. It's only about a half mile. So, considering that that is a very extended climb on that road, you are going to be burning through some power. It's hard to really estimate that, but we looked at our range test results, and that showed that that bike can go just about 30 miles on mostly flat ground in its highest assist level. Considering that, you kind of could go either way, but you do have a really good advantage, and the fact that you are 110 pounds. That means that, any of us who are heavier, the bike's going to be burning a lot more power.
So everyone on the testing team has got you by 40 pounds at least. So
yeah, easily. Yeah. So there is a very good chance that this bike could be good for you. I think it is very reasonable to think that it would be solid. If you are doubtful about that, you could always look at getting a second battery. I was looking at that, and I believe Velotric sells them for around $350. I didn't make a note of that. But, if you're still maybe not sold on that idea, you might consider another option like the Rad Power Bikes Rad Expand 5 Plus. So that one also has a 750 watt rear hub motor. It is paired with a larger battery, so it's 720 watt hours there. And in our range test, it actually went about 10 miles further than the Fold 1 Plus using its high power test. So that's about 25% more distance. But there is kind of a little bit of a trade-off there, and that is the fact that all the Rad Power Bikes, e-bikes, do not peak above 750 watts. So it's likely to be a little bit slower climbing than the Fold 1 Plus would be, but that also has the trade-off of helping it conserve some power. So hopefully that helps you in your decision. Let us know if you have any other questions. But moving on to a question from a fairly old review at this point, the Freedare Eden on YouTube. This comes to us from Peter Urig 7946. Hope I'm saying all of that correctly. Why have the 3 assist modes a speed limit? The main feature of a torque sensor is that I can reach top speed in any support level. I don't want to constantly check the speedometer to see if the maximum speed for the respective support level has already been reached and I need to switch to the next level. Sorry, but this is absolute crap.
no guessing how they really feel on that.
Yeah,
one.
seriously, we do appreciate the passion.
And for the record, Peter, we actually kind of agree, like John and I do, with your overall like point here.
Yeah.
For us, when it comes to like torque sensor e-bikes, we kind of like having fewer modes and modes that are just kind of like, accessing the whole speed spectrum, as it were, with just very clear, like lower, medium, high differentiation, and the amount of power you're getting, how easy it is to hit those speeds.
Yep.
So I lean towards agreeing with you when I say, I don't really want to have like my speed capped in like PAS2 and like hit 15, 16 miles per hour and just feel like, and now the bike's done helping me. It's not my personal favorite thing. The one thing that we have learned as reviewers, though, is one person's annoyance is another person's like features that they kind of like and appreciate.
Yep.
One person's
trash treasure situation.
100%. So those could be the guardrails that someone else does appreciate. It might be the type of thing of they know they'll keep their speed in check. They know that if they keep it in PAS2, it's going to help hold that speed and preserve battery, keep that going longer, like things like that. So there are reasons to consider why they would have done that. So it's not outright good or bad. It's just, again, reviewer talk, forgive us, but it just kind of depends on you and your situation. Now, this does kind of back up a conversation that we've been having, just feels like weekly around the office this summer, which is just, we like to see more optionality in the hands of users. So this is kind of like me talking to the industry right now. We talked about Aventon and Velotric a little bit earlier, Aventon made an update, pushed it out through the app. It would be really nice to see just, again, more toggleable things like in the settings menu of, like give me speed limits in metal assist mode, give me no speed limits, just give me, like different amounts of power or wattage, things like that. The ability to toggle torque and cadence sensors, just a whole bunch of different stuff that you could program into a bike. I believe it would be fairly easy. You can do that just in a regular old settings menu when you make and send the bike out. You don't necessarily need an app, but of course, if you have an app connected bike, should have the ability to push an over-the-air update. So consider this our like moment of just advocating for consumers. I can just see a little bit more control so people can pick how they want to ride, to either have those guardrails or just have more freedom or just ride how they want to ride.
Yeah, and just to add, we've actually seen a few other e-bikes with similar setups this summer where, it does have a torque sensor, but then there are speed caps. And like my take on that is that it just really kind of allows you to control your speed more easily. And some riders might prefer that. Well, again, maybe we personally prefer that full range instead. But
100%.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, so our next one comes to us from HogsFan91. You're getting featured twice in 2 weeks. Go Hogs. Yeah. So this is on the Tenways Ego X review, who says, is this better than the Stellar Falcon by Euphree? All right.
That is a tough thing to answer in a brief period of time, so we're going to go
here
on
to try.
a deep dive. Yeah, better is just a subjective term, right? Like everybody has their preferences, what they're looking for. So without knowing kind of what you value in an e-bike, that's hard to say. So let's kind of run through the basics for each bike. We'll talk about some test performance stuff, and then give some recommendations at the end. So I'll talk about the Ego X, and then Griffin, I'll let you handle the Stellar Falcon side of things.
Sounds great.
Okay. So on the Ego X side, let me back up. Both bikes are that sort of like SUV commuter style e-bike. The Ego X has a 250 watt Bafeng mid-drive motor that has 80 newton meters of torque and a torque sensor. So as you might expect with that combination, it just delivers power very naturally. So it feels a lot like riding a regular bike, just a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and a lot more fun. This one is a little bit lighter than the Stellar Falcon. It's 61 pounds, so that makes it a little bit more nimble, although it does have larger wheels, which is an interesting kind of balanced point there. But then the riding position, I guess, and the feel of the bike overall, it's just a little bit more of a performance-oriented feel, a little bit more sporty. It's got really wide handlebars, like kind of along the lines of what you might find on an EMTB. It has a fixed stem and a forward-leaning riding position where you're putting some weight on the handlebars. And then that bike has, a pretty decent front suspension. It's got a really nice 10-speed Shimano drivetrain and a good overall feel for off-roading, but you probably would want to upgrade the tires if that is something that you're planning to do.
Mm-hmm. So jumping into the Stellar Falcon, so a little bit of a different setup here with a 750 watt rear hub motor. Now it does have torque and cadence sensors, the ability to toggle like we talked about before. So you can choose your experience there, but it's not quite as natural with its torque sensor. You get a little bit better, engagement off the mid-drive, more subtle 250 watt of the Tenways Ego X, but again, still a fairly natural-ish sensation. But definitely more power. You can feel that's pretty apparent between the two. And that power just kind of comes from behind you instead of down at feet level the cranks. So it is a little bit on the heavier side at 74 pounds. It still handles pretty well though. It's not too sluggish or anything like that. It is a little bit more comfort focused. So John talked before, EBikes a little bit more performance oriented, leaning forward, things like that. This one's a little bit more relaxed. It also includes a suspension seat post and an adjustable stem, and it's possible to customize the riding position a little bit more if you want a little bit more upright or a little bit more forward leaning. It's a little bit better suited for off-roading out of the box. It does have an air suspension on there, a suspension seat post, and then the Schwalbe Hans Dampf knobby tires, which we actually really like those tires. The drivetrain is a little bit weaker though, I would say.
It's an 8-speed versus a 10. Yep.
Yeah.
So then moving on to our test segments, the Ego X in our speed test. So that is a class 1 e-bike. So it's limited to 20 miles per hour through pedal assist only. There is no throttle. And then that gives you 5 assist levels. And we found that there's basically 3 that are pretty well balanced for flats. But then the higher 2 settings kind of level off just because of that speed limit. And but if you're climbing, they do give you a couple extra power levels for going uphill.
And then on the Stellar Falcon, so it's class 2 and class 3 capable, so you can go a little bit faster there. It has 4 assist levels that ramp up in power. 3 are pretty balanced for flats, then 1 extra for climbing in class 2 mode. But again, 28 mile per hour max speed in class 3, and it does have a throttle option on there as well if you don't want to pedal at all.
Yep. Moving on to our range test though. So the Ego X went 32 and 50 miles in our high and low power tests.
And then the Stellar Falcon did 26 to 68 miles. So a little bit wider range there, not quite as far on the high power, but surprisingly a lot further on the low power.
Yeah, that is surprising. Moving on to the brake test section though, fairly similar results. The Ego X stopped in an average of 22 feet and 5 inches.
And then the Stellar Falcon stopped at 21 feet 9 inches. And the e-bike average right now is like right around 22 feet. So both, like pretty good.
Yeah. Very safe. On the hill test, and this is our old hill test location. So the Ego X doesn't have a throttle, so we couldn't test that portion of it, but in the pedal test, that came in with a minute and 49 seconds. And it's just worth pointing out that because it has a mid-drive, mid-drives are typically a little bit slower here, so that is very normal, and that was a good result.
Yep. And then the Stellar Falcon was pretty speedy, actually. So it was a minute and 6 seconds on the throttle time and a minute and 10 seconds on the pedal time, and both of those are well above the average even for hub motors, which are a little bit quicker on that hill test.
For sure. Yeah, good thing to note. So just kind of rounding all of that out with recommendations, I do want to say up front that kind of looking back through the test data there, that like the numbers kind of favor the Stellar Falcon, but that does not mean at all that the Ego X is a bad bike. It just, again, kind of depends on what you're looking for. So I'd recommend the Ego X if you really want a bike with maybe a little bit slower speed limit, something that has a little bit more of an aggressive riding position and just very natural power delivery. That is really the big highlight there, as well as the overall handling and steering control. But then also just maybe on a less important factor, if you just want a bike that looks cool, Tenways has that design really nailed in.
They have a cool sleek design to them.
Definitely. And then just want something that's kind of well equipped for commuting, exercise, and potential off-roading, but again, that will require a couple changes.
Yeah. And then this is actually a really tough one with these two bikes, because they're both SUV style, but just think of them as very different kind of approaches to the SUV style.
Sure.
So the Stellar Falcon is going to be a little bit better if you want more comfort and customization in terms of the feel. Again, that adjustable stems and the things you can kind of alter there. If you want more speed and power, it's probably going to be the winner there. It's just a little bit, it's almost effortless by comparison, especially with the throttle option. And then as long as you don't mind, that less natural feel, again, it's not going to convince you you're not on an e-bike. You're going to be very aware of that. However, that might be what you're searching out anyway.
Yep.
It's also well suited for riding on and off road. So it doesn't quite, but doesn't quite have the same unique design, I would say, of the Tenways. But again, out of the box with those tires, it's very off-road capable and kind of nice in that regard. So hopefully that helps. As always, please let us know which one you're kind of favoring, which one more lines up with your type of riding, and enjoy it if you get it.
And if you have any questions you want us to answer on next week's episode of the show, make sure to drop them in the comments, or you can email us at questions@electricbikereport.com.
Guys, did you know that Wednesday is back on Netflix, season 2? You want to know what that Addams Family little theme to it?
Yeah.
It goes like this: Deals of the week. Deals of the week. Okay, they don't say deals of the week in the show, but you know what I'm talking about. We totally ripped that off from Addams Family. Sorry, don't sue us. Anyway, so talking about ways we can save you money this week, there are a couple of sales going on right now, starting with an Velo sale, actually.
That's right. And so they have 4 models on sale. We're just kind of highlighting a couple here, but the Atlas is one that we currently have in testing. So that it's sort of a cruiser commuter hybrid. That one is $450 off, down to $4,150. And just a couple quick highlights here. It has a 600 watt Bafeng mid-drive motor that has 120 newton meters of torque, so pretty powerful. Has an NVLO CVT and a Gates belt drive, and that is one that you can adjust with the twist shifter. And then that bike has a 720 watt hour battery with an estimated range of up to 60 miles.
Yep. And then they also have the Galaxy Lux on sale, which is a review I'm actually finalizing right now, actually. So that's $400 off, down to $3,700. So a lot of that same really cool tech, 600 watt mid-drive motor with 105 newton meters of torque on that one. Has the NVLO Automatique and Gates belt drive system, so don't even have to shift at all. Bike does it for you. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And then it has a 557 watt hour battery, estimated range of about 55 miles. Check my full review to see the full range on that. But again, you can save $400 on that one right now.
Kind of a similar thing on our next bike here, where I'm finishing up my review of this one.
That's right.
We talked earlier about the two new Heybike models in the X series. So starting off with the Mars 3.0 folding e-bike. So that is $100 off for a launch deal. Actually, both of them are, but we'll get to that one later. So the price for the Mars 3.0 is $1199, and that bike has a 750 watt rear hub motor, again with a torque sensor. That motor peaks at 1400 watts and kicks out 95 newton meters of torque. The bike has a full suspension, and then there's a couple advertised maximum speeds, so you can get it up to 28 miles per hour through the app, but you can actually tweak that and go over 30 miles per hour if you also adjust it through the display.
That's right. And then over on the Ranger side of things, so again, $100 off on that one, only $13.99. These are actually like pretty good prices. Again,
for what you get,
rare combination of full suspension, folding bikes, all that stuff, and pretty powerful motors. So just quick run through again on the specs. 750 watt hub motor there, 1200 watt peak, 80 newton meters of torque, has a torque sensor, that full suspension setup, and a 720 watt hour battery with an estimated 90 miles of range. So again, like those are launch deals. They won't be around for very long, but if you want to save $100, then hop on it.
Bingo.
As always, this show could not be possible without an audience, so thank you so much for watching, tuning in every week with us. And as a way to say thank you and give back, we'd like to highlight a question or comment like every week and have that Rider of the Week. So John, who do we have?
This week we have Quay McQuitter 8386, who commented on the Trek FX Plus 1S review on YouTube. So I chose this comment because a lot of times, you know, we just ask you guys to give us your feedback on your bike, and that's exactly what this is. So I really appreciated this writer's take. He said, again, about the FX Plus 1S, he said, I have this bike in the FX Plus 1S model. I bought it about a month ago, and I'm so in love with it. It's smooth and fast, and I really only ride it in eco mode. I rarely use the throttle unless it's about to rain, and I need to get back to the house. The color is amazing. It's black matte and has simple 8 gears. The charging is easy and quick. I'm 6'2" and bought the large size instead of the XL because I wanted to be more comfortable on it, because the XL frame was longer, which would have made me stretch out more and add more strain to my back. So if you're 6'2" and 200 pounds plus, the large is perfect for you. I ride in my neighborhood after work for an hour, which equates to 16 miles. To be honest, you won't find a better electric bike on the market at the $2,000 price. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed testing that bike, and you know, if you're curious about it, definitely check out the review where this comment can be found. But yeah, again, just really happy that you are loving your bike so much. So
yeah, it's like we always appreciate it in these reviews. You know, we like give you our full insights into everything, but again, it really is nice to hear feedback from other people. What the experiences are that you're having out in the wild, you know.
Definitely. So if you want to be highlighted in next week's episode of the show, do the usual thing, comment down below, comment on a review, tell us what you think about your bike. You can email us pictures of you and your bike. We'd love to highlight that. And again, that email address is questions@electricbikereport.com. As always, if you've stuck around this long, we really thank you. We really enjoy interacting with all of you. So keep all that stuff coming. Send us your questions, your comments, your opinions of your bike, your thoughts about others. Just, yeah, we really enjoy doing what we do and having you guys along for the ride.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, if you don't want to catch this on YouTube, we are actually on all the podcast platforms, your Amazon, your Apple, your, of course, Spotify. So you can check us out there. Please subscribe, follow along, and leave us some like reviews and comments there as well. We'd greatly appreciate it. But that's going to do it for John and I on this episode of The Weekly Recharge.